Hi, Susan.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. So I think there's a few customers tonight coming along, hopefully.
Yes, I think so. I think a few people are quite interested in this one, aren't they? Quite looking forward to it, which will be good. I'm just waiting for Emma, Shane, Katie to join us. They should have all of the right details, but I'll just get my emails up.
Good.
Don't know. Can you hear that banging there coming from my thing? I have a feeling one of my cats might have got stuck in
I can.
in the cat flap. Can you hear it? I'm just going to go for 1 second and just check it. That's going to really bother me if I can keep hearing. He's got himself out by the looks of it, so he's I don't know what he was doing, but he was definitely stuck somewhere. There we go.
Sounds like someone was stuck somewhere.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, I've not heard that noise before, and that's going to really bother me if I have to sit through this and listen to it. Right.
I took the dog for a long walk just before this, so I thought hopefully she'll be nice and quiet.
Oh, good. Yeah, she'll be ready for a nap, won't she? Right. Let me just check how I get them on. So I'll share into the chat shortly. Katie's put us together a great resource of when you're in the Teachers Hub of how to access things and where to go. So she's made that up for us, which is really good. So I'll share the chat shortly. Really helpful.
Yeah, brilliant. Be interesting to hear if anybody has been using it too.
Yeah, definitely. I know lots of people have been kind of asking about it recently and asking for links to things and a bit of help with stuff. So I think it's going to be a popular live for people so they can have a chance to see it. Right.
Oh, there she is. I'll shut my door. She's got a particularly piercing bark.
That's a great bark. I love it.
It's a beagle howl.
Hello,
Katie.
Hello, Susan. It seems such a long time.
Well, it's a year.
I know.
Yeah, this time we were doing it in the middle of it all, weren't we?
We were. Wow.
Wow, that's just gone so fast. I can't believe it.
Oh, there we are. There's Emma Shea. Well, I will sneak off into the background again, but I'll obviously give me a shout if you need anything, and I'll be listening in the side wings.
Lovely.
Cheers.
Hi there.
Hi. How are you?
Nice to see you.
It's
lovely to see you too. It really is. So, right. Should we make a start?
Yes.
I don't know what you've
said already to the audience, but hello, if you're watching, I'm not entirely sure. We get a limited view when we're presenting, which is a bit disconcerting. So not having, I hope someone's monitoring.
I don't have any view of who is here, but even if there's nobody here, they will all be watching us later. So we have to pretend.
And we'll have a lovely chat in the meantime.
Yeah, it's so lovely to see both of you, especially Katie, because it seems like a very long time since we last connected.
When I think of how closely we worked together and then that big gap, it is lovely to see you both again.
Yeah, on a really regular basis. So should we just do some very short introductions, and then we can talk more about the details of the curriculum. So I am Emma Shahal. I am one of the co-subject leads for the OAK/NSEAD Primary Art, Craft and Design Curriculum. And here this evening we also have Susan Augier, who was the other co-subject lead for Primary Art, Craft and Design. And we're delighted to be joined by Katie Marl. Katie, I'm so sorry, I forget your exact title. Are you okay to do a brief introduction? Because Katie has a very important responsibility in the OAK organisation.
So I'm one of the curriculum managers at OAK, and my background is primary, and I worked with many subjects, but primary art, craft and design being one of the subjects that I worked with both yourselves as subject leads and the teachers, supporting the teachers in creating the great resources that we've got on the site now at OAK National Academy.
Thank you, Katie. So just to explain to people who are watching, the purpose of this conversation is just to give you some insights into the curriculum and how it came about and what it consists of and how it could be useful, will be useful to you with your children, with your colleagues. So the NSEAD was approached by OAK to be a curriculum partner, and then Susan and I worked together to create the curriculum map using the NSEAD's planning, assessment and progression framework. And we created a map which had 12 units of work across years 1 to 6.
I think there were 60 lessons, weren't there, in all?
Yeah, so each year group had two projects, each of 5 lessons, and we worked with a wonderful team of 7 teachers around the country who are really experienced, really enthusiastic to put the content together. And not only ourselves and NSEAD, but OAK having very high expectations for the quality of what was produced. The curriculum and the resources is a really fantastic resource. So although it was originally designed to be used for homeschooling or for schools to use during the lockdown periods, it's absolutely way more versatile than that. Not only for teachers to take and use with their children and adapt for the classroom, but I think also importantly for professional development. So if anyone out there is thinking, gosh, what is graphic design in the primary school? What is textiles in the primary school? If you watch those videos, if you participate in those videos and do the activities, it's just a really great resource. So is that helpful to contextualize it? Do you want to add anything, either of you, to just give a bit more information?
Well, I was also going to mention the deconstructed lesson that Liz Lawrence did with you, actually, MJ, didn't she? You kind of saw her through that bit after we'd completed all of our units. And that is, I think, a fantastic resource for anybody who is thinking about, you know, a bit of CPD or wanting to understand kind of what goes into that lesson and sort of that actual deconstruction. And in fact, it could be used by, you know, initial teacher training, certainly something like that as in some kind of, you know, formal sort of a session for somebody who's really trying to learn about what an good art lesson looks like and why all those things happen in the way they happen. So I think that's a really important thing to mention.
Yeah, that I agree with you. because that was put together for trainee teachers to be used as a resource, taking Liz's lesson, just the one lesson, her explaining her decisions, so her intentions behind the ideas, behind the activities. But then, importantly, she explained how she would adapt it to a physical classroom. So rather than a child working at home with perhaps limited resources, they would, how you could take those same ideas and adapt them to a class of 30, and you know, how you might change some of the framing of the tasks and integrate some group work and discussions and this sort of thing. So yeah, super useful.
Definitely. Katie, what about you? Have you got anything to add to what Emma
I
said?
think the deconstructed lesson for me is brilliant at really highlighting what the teacher's thinking is during the planning process, and I think that's super useful for anyone whatever stage of their career. Shall I just mention where you find that lesson on the site?
Oh, that would be
it's sort of hidden away a little bit if you're looking for it. So if you go, when you go onto the homepage of OAK National Academy, at the very bottom of the homepage it says ITT lessons, and if you click into there you can select primary and then art, craft and design. So that's how you can actually find that lesson to have a look at it. And it's nicely done in that it has Liz's original lesson, and then it has her talking through that lesson in a deconstructing the lessons. So that's quite nice that you can see the two alongside each other.
Yeah, and it comes with guidance, doesn't it, for anyone? So if a teacher trainer were to look at that, it gives them ideas for how they might use it with their students as well. So how they might, you know, you could spend quite a lot of time, couldn't you, asking the students to view it and write notes and write their own reflections, and then look at what Liz was saying. Do your ideas match what Liz was saying? Because actually that particular lesson exemplifies not only good practice in the context of her particular lesson, but just across how you teach primary art, craft and design effectively. So it was ticking lots of kind of key criteria for a really successful lesson in a short little video.
And great to have that opportunity to be able to see inside the teacher's head, because often so many decisions are made, and it's really nice to have that verbalized for why those decisions are made and the thinking behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the fantastically useful, because also even if you're looking at another lesson, you're using another lesson, perhaps one of those year one ones which were really so lovely, but the same kind of pedagogy applies, so you can also then start to look at those lessons and think, oh, this is why they're doing it in this way, and this is so it's actually really good in that way too.
And I think one of the really strong features of how we had to the teachers created the content using the OAK framework, using the OAK kind of ingredients, for want of a better word, and one of the key vocabulary or star words was so important for how the lessons were conceptualized. And we all know that effective learning is so connected to children's understanding of this specialist vocabulary. And art, craft and design, there are so many different terms that unless you have background knowledge, you're not going to know especially what those words mean. So to have those explained and contextualized and reinforced in the lessons is not only great for the children's learning, but again, if you're a teacher who's perhaps lacking some subject knowledge, maybe has some holes, that's also useful, isn't it, to reinforce these kind of key concepts and how they're important to understanding the knowledge underpin those lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, again, with the kind of the way that things are going a little bit in school, it's all about knowledge, isn't it? And that is some kind of knowledge that we can just say, yeah, they do know this. It is that really important aspect to our subject I think is often sort of like left aside a little bit. It's that sort of attaching it to the dialogue that you have with children. If you're just doing an art lesson without that language input and that dialogue, then there's, how do you know what the children are taking away from that? So I think that vocabulary aspect, I can't sort of stress that enough as key, important in any sort of lesson planning, really. Sort of what vocabulary introducing, how are you expecting that to be reflected back to you when you talk to the children, so that it shows their understanding. And art is its own sort of vocabulary, isn't it? Just the side of things, that sort of tacit knowledge as well, is like, that's the nature of the subject, isn't it? So it's a kind of, and that's what I really loved about working on the OAK project, was because we were able to really think about all those different processes actually, and think, how might this look, and how might this look with an age group, but actually you can use that and make it a little bit more complex or a little bit more simple, depending on the age of children you're teaching. So you're not stuck with, following it rigidly, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? That's the thing.
Absolutely. And we very much design our resources with the idea that teachers will download them and edit them and make them suitable for the children in their class. And I think that's what's really nice about being able to use the resources. But just as you said that you learned something from OAK, OAK learned so much from working on the art, craft and design lessons, because there were lots of practical things that we needed to get over. So how can we demonstrate an activity and do that by video? And actually, I think the demonstrations for me are one of the strongest and most useful aspects of the resources, because I just think how difficult it is in a classroom to demonstrate things and have 30 children all able to see what you're trying to show. And those little, even just those sections of the videos, I think are so useful in class.
That's a brilliant point, Katie, because I know if you go onto YouTube and try to find a demo to use in the classroom, there's so much, there's good stuff there, but equally often it's pitched wrongly, or it's full of adverts, and so most of the lessons have demos in, and some of them have like a voiceover as well, so you get to access like the teacher's thinking, their like metacognition as they're engaging in the activities. So yes, as you say, even if you didn't use the whole video in a classroom context, the demos are brilliant.
Yes.
Even if you just show part of a demo to model something. So particularly maybe for teachers who aren't so confident, that could really be helpful as a tool, as a resource. And as Susan was saying, we've covered those 12 areas of making. So the teachers put together those 12 units of work, so 60 lessons. So there's only one unit for drawing, there's only one unit for painting, there's only one for ceramics, but that content can be very easily adapted to different year groups. So I think you can take a year 1 drawing lesson and use it with year 6.
Yeah, definitely.
Just adapt it slightly and think, raise your expectation for the outcomes and this sort of thing. But the principles underpinning,
and the inspiration is all there. So it's just how the different year groups apply it.
So flexible.
I think getting quite technical about the demonstrations, something that we now do with all our lessons at OAK, is that the demonstrations are done from as though the teacher is doing it, so that when you show that to a class, they can physically see the angle that they would be taking part. So it's much easier for the modeling for them to see. And I think that's a really important thing about the YouTube videos. So many show it as though the pupil is the audience, and actually it's really hard to work out how you would do it if you're facing the opposite direction.
I know. I think in my work, a lot of students, they want to show a bit of video or how to do something, and often what they come back to me and say is that videos that are being shown in school are quite sort of closed. So it's like, draw a line here, now draw a line there, and oh look, now you've got one just like me. But that's the opposite of what we did with our videos and our demonstrations. It was that open-endedness, isn't it, that makes them so easily adaptable and so easily to kind of you know, just being able to use it with different themes. You know, you can do the same kind of thing but with a completely different theme. So again, I just think that open-endedness was something that was really important when we were planning the lessons. What don't you think, Emma Shea?
I do, and I think another really nice feature is all the teachers who worked on these lessons and put hours and hours of effort and expertise and enthusiasm into it. They also really position themselves not only as teachers and artists but also learners. So when they reflected on what they had created, they were really honest, and so, you know, if they didn't like something, they said it. And it's so good for children to see the teacher not being perfect and learning and say, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this, and oh, I'm not happy with this, because it's exactly what we expect of children. And so it's not that you're the adult and you know everything and everything you create is going to be perfect, but that reflection and that evaluation modeling is a really useful feature that they all include.
Definitely, yeah. Katie,
even more impressive when you think that we were in a lockdown at the time that those lessons were created, and there were teachers with sort of babes in arms still, you know, creating videos and things, and being limited in where they could get out and about to get footage of different settings, which was amazing.
Absolutely, and having COVID too.
Yes.
So we really went through the whole thing, didn't we, with them? It was amazing. What about the actual usage, Katie? Do you want to sort of say something about how they were used once they were released?
I knew you'd ask me this, Susan. I'm glad I looked up how many times the lessons have been started since they appeared on the site last January. The figure is amazing. So you ready for this? It's 530,214 times.
Wow.
Those art lessons have been started over the last year, which I think just emphasizes how useful teachers are finding them, and how they obviously start the lesson, really enjoy it, find it really useful, and then use further lessons as well. But I just think that's incredible. You know, it's something to be really proud of, just how well used the lessons are.
Over 500,000.
I'm just going to amazing. I'm just gonna butt in. Sorry, I'm realizing again, you guys aren't seeing our live chat here. We have had a question and a couple of comments, so I just wanted to say, so someone's asked, if there was a magic money pot, what lessons would you add to the OAK Primary Art and Design curriculum?
What a great question.
I would add an early years section. Of course.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I think also, as Katie was saying, the teachers were recording typically in their own houses, sometimes in their school classrooms, and with limited resources. So wouldn't it be great if they could go into a gallery or into an artist studio, and so or outside? Some of them were outside, but you know, go into some different spaces for making art, and maybe engage and maybe engage in conversation with some, you know, other creative practitioners as well. That could be an interesting dimension.
That would be lovely, and something wonderful to offer for children that maybe don't have access to those gallery visits. That would be a lovely aspect. I'd just be really greedy and want more of the same, so teachers had more choice over the units that they followed.
I mean, it is actually endless, isn't it, what you can do in art and design? So it would be like a never-ending project. Absolutely, yeah. That's great. Are there any more questions, Diane?
No more questions just yet, but a few comments of saying that they love that it's a Word document that can be adapted to every school. So really positive feedback there that people are finding really helpful. And Katie's put together a fantastic document that I'm going to share into this group afterwards with some ideas around access and where to go when you're in kind of the Teacher Hub, which is brilliant. And someone else saying, yes, please, to an early years one. So you've set something off there, Susan.
There you go, Katie. The DFE.
I'll add it to my wish list. It gets longer by each day.
Oh, that's great. I wonder if anybody has thought about that kind of idea of progression. I know I don't know about you, Emma, but I'm always getting asked about progression. I think it's the one thing teachers are most anxious about when they're planning their school, scheme of work or whatever. And we did purposely kind of use that progression map from NSEAD, didn't we? And anybody who is kind of thinking, how does this show progression? And I had a very interesting question on our Facebook page, actually, which was about about language and how do you kind of keep the language going. So children might do like a play in year 1, and then maybe they don't do it again, so they lose all that language. How keep that all going? And I think again it's kind of thinking about it sort of sensibly, how much you can do and how much you can kind of visiting, isn't it, really?
Yeah, making connections, because of course when you're teaching you're always talking about connections, aren't you? And of course in the OAK lessons we couldn't do that because it would have really complicated things. We couldn't say, well, if you look at the year 4 lesson on X you'll see because it was very much they are kind of discrete. One of the great advantages are they are discrete, standalone. You could take any one of those and use it. But they are in a mini scheme of 5, a unit of 5. So there is progression through that. But yes, making the links between them, because there's loads of synergy. We could see the great advantage for Susan and I is we got to see all of them, and we said to the teachers, we're experienced, but we're learning so much from all these wonderful ideas, and also the idea that they couldn't realise because there wasn't the space to put them in. So actually what's encapsulated in those lessons sits in a much kind of larger arena of all kinds of interesting things, doesn't it? The things that kind of got put to one side because it wasn't particularly practical to
absolutely.
Lessons.
Yeah, we were in total awe of those teachers, weren't we, and what they achieved.
Absolutely.
In the time frame too. And
I started my own sketchbook after watching some of those lessons when I was checking them, because I was just so inspired to join in with them.
And Katie, that's what I mean about these lessons being brilliant for professional development. They just are. Even
Absolutely.
I think, even if you think, well, I'm the art coordinator, I've got experience, I know what I'm doing. Every single lesson has something slightly different in it, and if you join in with the activities, and I tried some of them, and actually you do learn some new techniques, because every teacher has their own expertise to share and their own little tricks. And
absolutely. And also those processes that you feel really comfortable doing, so you can look at and think, why, actually I don't really understand that, but I'm going to have a go because it looks fine.
And the fact you can just replay the video, which I think is great, to be able to do that, so you can keep watching it until you've got it exactly what you're doing. I think that's a really helpful thing that you can't always do in the classroom, rewind and replay the bit you've just done.
Absolutely.
I think in the curriculum map as well, at the very bottom, I think art, craft and design were the only subject to do this, and I think it's super helpful with the progress objectives that were listed for each of the units, so you could really start to assess children's progress throughout the units. So I'd certainly say when you have a little look at the curriculum maps, to make sure you scroll right down to the bottom, because it's towards the end of the document, but I think that's a really helpful part.
I'll just
Great.
sneak in again to say,
Yeah.
so I think we've had a bit of a Facebook glitch, unfortunately.
Oh.
So it's not been showing up for people that we're live. So I think there might be quite a few people who'll be watching this afterwards. And I just wanted to say that I'll put a message in to say that if anyone does have any questions, obviously we can answer them afterwards as well. So please do feel like you can keep asking. We've got one more question here saying, I know that materials are being used by some ITE courses to model good practice. So how might subject coordinators or art leads use these to support their teachers? That might be a nice one to finish on.
Do you mean the actual OAK materials, the resources, Diane?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I think you mean what Susan was referring to, the deconstructed lesson. Was that the particular focus? Because that's pitched in the OAK sort of on the website to be for training teachers, but it's equally great for, you know, an inset event where teachers could look at it and reflect upon the practice and then watch Liz's explanation and think, oh yes, that's why she did that, or that's why she, and also how that approach maybe aligns with what they do in the classroom, because it's always good to reflect on your practice and to have someone else's input.
Yeah, definitely, I would agree, and I think you could easily use that deconstructed lesson in a staff meeting, for example, if you've got your art staff meeting, which I hope everybody has at least once a term. But yeah, what a great use of your time, actually, to think about how art is taught in your school and match it up with the pedagogy that's being explained actually in that video.
And certainly the feedback we've had at OAK is that teachers are using all of the lessons, all of the videos for CPD, because the feedback we're getting is how great it is to be able to have a staff room that's open 24 hours a day and fit in with times when you've got chance. And if you're wondering how to deliver something or explain something or teach something, how great it is just to sort of log on and be able to see a real teacher delivering something and not have any of the distractions of when you observe them in class and there's children in there and things. How great it is to be able to just focus on the way that teachers deliver things and how that really supports, I think, particularly non-specialists. That's a great support.
That's really good to hear, Katie. And yes, you know, when they refer to the different artists, the different craftspeople, the different designers, that's also helpful, because sometimes, you know, as a teacher, you might discover an artist whose work you want to use, but not know exactly what you might do with it, how it could be helpful. So that's also another strength, isn't it? To have that kind of
and how the units of work are chunked into the lessons. I think that's really helpful to show you, do you know, in what order you should teach those skills and how it leads from one to the other. I think that's really supportive in people's own planning.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Great.
So thank you. Just some lovely comments really now. So there's not any more questions, but lots of people saying big thank yous and how OAK's really helped them format their lessons after moving and stuff. So yeah, lots of love in the comments. Such a shame you can't see them. Yeah, they'll obviously be in the group afterwards, and if anyone does have any other questions, they can feel free to write them in, and Michelle and Susan can go through those and keep an eye on it over the next couple of weeks.
Definitely, and also he wants to just, you know, we've got our lovely Facebook site where we want questions, don't we, Michelle?
Yes, you know, anything, but particularly that's connected to the OAK resources, because they literally are a gold mine, mine. So if anyone's watching this and hasn't looked, please do, because they're the distillation of so much expertise, just so much expertise that goes way beyond the team of us working on it, because you know, the experts and colleagues who contributed to the NSEAD framework. Wow, so there's a big group of people, lots of it's a massive effort. into these little videos and the accompanying map and everything. So yeah.
Absolutely.
And the diversity check that was done of all the resources as well. I think that's a real selling point for them. Do you know how great that you know that that's already been checked and that there is diversity reflected in those lessons?
Yeah, we wanted it to be as rich and inclusive as possible.
That was kind of on our agenda from the beginning, wasn't it, Michelle? Lovely. Anything else, Diane?
No, just lots of lovely comments, really, saying it's great to hear all the good feedback and been real gold. The resources are a gold mine. So lots and lots of positive feedback from people, and I'm sure we'll get even more, because I think with our Facebook glitch, there's people who are maybe looking for it. So I'm sure we'll be getting lots of lovely comments afterwards as well. Thank you so much, everyone. That was such a lovely session.
Great.
Thank you
for everybody coming.
Thanks for joining us, Katie. It's been really lovely to have you with us as our first guest.
Hopefully it won't be a whole year next time when we meet up again. I'll have to try and do it in less than a year.
You try and get some money off the DFE to do those extension projects,
Yes, I'll add it to the wish list, definitely.
Okay then.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.